Okay, so this is a fairly simple tree. All we're thinking about is the colours and the shape and the air holes. We'll use a bit of path to give it perspective and maybe put in this bush as well, but mainly we're concentrating on the tree, how we start and finish off the tree. So I'm using the black charcoal, and as you can see, I'm not trying in any way to copy all the little bits and pieces of tree. I'm not doing all that sort of business. I'm going over the top of the shape where I think the tree will be. That's my kitten. And these bits here, I'll point with it. No, wait a minute. I'll point with the brush. That'll make it easier. Right, these bits here are the dark shapes. They're the really dark shapes. So I'm going to paint those in as really dark shapes. And there's a little one over here. And there's a bigger one down here. So they're really dark. But overall, I think I want it a bit darker than that. And then we've got these, we've got the trunks of the tree. Now I know that you like tree trunks, but that's not really specifically what we're thinking about today. And here's the greenery going in at the bottom, and it is much darker at the bottom. And the wee path sort of comes in there and down there and then round there. Then the edge of the grass is here. The sea will be level there. And I don't do level. I'm not very good at level. So now, just in case we want to put that little bush in, I'm just going to put its dark shape in, which is at the bottom and there and a bit there. And then it's got these bits coming. And we've got that there. And so that's roughly that. And then, of course, the landscape, you know, it sort of carries on around here. But I'm not so worried about that now. We're just thinking about trees now. So I'm going to start off with the darkest green. Right, come on in then. Shh. Okay, so I've got my darkest green, which is, oh God, sorry about this, which is that one there. I don't think I can get it into a position where you can see it properly. However, it's that one there, and it's going to go in here. It's going in where those darkest bits of green were that I put in. These dark bits here. This is where it's going in. And then I'm putting in some turquoise, which is there. And that's another dark, but it just adds another dimension. That's all. Now I'm going to choose another dark green, and then I'm going to strangle my cat, my kittens. So you can see at the moment there's a sort of patchwork of colours which is looking really odd. We're entering what I call, what a lot of people call, the ugly stage. And I'm just working now with those three greens. So I didn't show the lightest one at the moment. That's the one I'm using. So I've got this very dark one, which I'm putting there. I'm going to use it a bit more. So I'm just using those three darks that I got out initially, and I'm just fiddling about with this area here, making sure that these dark shapes are more or less in the right position. They're not going to be perfect, of course. And now we'll go for a slightly lighter green, because now I want to put in a bit of form around the top. See this bit that I'm doing here? That's that bit there. Whenever you put a light colour on, put it on top. And I don't mean on top of the dark. I mean that sort of on top. So that if you can imagine the sun is shining down here, so where the sun shines is going to be lighter than the underneath bit. So that's what you've got to kind of think about at this stage. You're building form into your tree. And then we'll put a little bit down here, though I'm not so interested in what's happening down there. Okay. And then I'm going to put in some, one or two notes of really light green. And I think it will be this one. I'm just trying it, you know, I might think, oh no, that's not right. Now there's some bits of bare paper, but that's okay. And I'm only putting these light bits in on the top of that green that I had. See this green here? I'm not putting it sort of in the middle of that dark green, because again, what it is the light shining through the tree. Right, now very roughly, that's it. So we've used 4 greens there. No, 1, 2, 3, can't count. 5 greens there. Dark turquoise, then a medium sort of green, and then a lighter green. And there was another one, I can't remember where that was. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to put in some sky to show you how we create sky holes and create the actual shape of the tree. Because at the moment it's just a ball, which is obviously not. It's got all these bits in it. And we can describe that by going over the top of our green with our pale blue. Right, so let's find a pale blue. I mean, I'm just choosing any old pale blue. It really, for the purposes of this demonstration, it doesn't need to be absolutely perfect. I hope you don't mind that. So first of all, we'll start here. I'll put a bit of sky in first, just roughly, and then I'll start eating in to my green. And I'm not making it perfect. Nothing over there. Now, can you see what I'm doing? I'm eating into the sky. Can you see that? It's coming out terribly dark on my monitor. Sorry about that. Now I'm going to do this little bit here. And that little bit there, my sky goes in and then round. There. Can you see how we've created that little bit there? Now later I'll put some little dots. In fact, I'll do it now so that you can see. I'll put in some little marks, which are the that's not very good. They are the twigs and branches. Okay, let's get back to that. It's my sky colour. So I carry on working down here. Sorry if my head gets in the way sometimes. People have told me about that before. It's one of the things about having a big head. Right, so I'm going around and I'm thinking about this shape here. So first of all, I'm going to do that. I'm using a Gordon Beckin pastel because I can utilize these corners to get into these bits. Ooh, missed it. Right, there we go. I'm being careful to avoid all this bit in case I decide I'm going to put it in later. No, I don't. Oh, I'll put just going down here before I say that. This is just a little bit fiddly, but it's worthwhile taking the time because the more correct you get this, the more it's going to look like a tree. Just standing back now, trying to avoid knocking the tripod over. Right, starting to come. So we'll just dig in here a little bit and then we'll just work a bit more in here. And then just like this bit. Now, do you remember when we were talking? Oh, wait a minute, let me do this. Sorry. I'm not really very good at this. I'm very unprofessional. You just have to cope with that. Right, do you remember I was saying that to make it look as if you've got thin bits of tree coming out over the top, rather than paint them all, just gently bring the sky in over the top. Now, as soon as you've done that, wipe your finger. Don't do that because you'll get the green. You get the blue come in too much and you'll get green in your sky. So just bring it in a little bit. Like that. And you're just smudging the edge and making it look a little bit more as if the edge of the tree is, it's all little bits of twigs and little bits of stuff. Now I'm going to have to blow my nose as if everything wasn't bad enough. Excuse me. Right. Okay, start again. So, now well, I'll put in some bits of tree trunk, shall I, and bits of green, because we've got, where's my pointing stick? Okay. Because we've got all this, and then we've got to show the trunks. So I'll just put in dark bits of green for the background of that. Now I've got, this is, you know, it's not at all like that, and I'm not trying to make it exactly like that. I'm just trying to indicate a little bit. So I'm just sort of playing with that, getting it right. Putting away the two little bits, just to help the colour. Right, so what I'm going to do now is to put the trunks in, and the trunks are lighter in value than this. So I'm just going to do a little mark just to see. Yeah, that's a bit too light. So I'm holding it on my box to choose a colour that's slightly darker. And I think this one might be it. Let's see. That's better. Can you see that okay? It's a very light mark. I'm just going to carry it on up there to make it look as if it's going up into the tree. Now then there's another trunk that goes down there, like that, and that one sort of goes up there. And then we've got two here. And so that will go there. And then the other one will go here. And they kind of go all the way up there. And then here, there's almost a suggestion, but I'm not going to put in any more than that. Now, the tricky subject of sky holes. So, where's my sky colour? Here we go. And around here. That's not good. Rub that out. There's a couple of little ones there. And then here. And then I'll put some in there. And then one there. Then there's some quite big ones going in there. So I'll put those in. Now less is more. So every now and again, do what I'm not doing and stand back and check. Because at this point I can soften a few or take them out. So I'm going to put a couple in here which are just not that shape. They're just little dots. And one down there. Now just checking what I've got here. Don't like that shape there. So I can go in over the top of it again. And I don't particularly care for that. That should be going out of the picture, all green up there. So I'll just sort of colour it in. Reminds me of when I showed David one of the paintings I was doing, and it was just at the drawing stage, And I said to him, what do you think? He said, yes, are you going to colour it in now? And I thought, oh God, have I taught you nothing? I said, no, you don't call it colouring in. Bless him. I'm going to put in a little bit of sky there. I'm going to put in some sky there too. And make it look a bit more ragged. Okay. I'm very happy with that. I would have done that. Missed that out completely. Okay. Right, now we'll put in some little branches. Do you see these little branches here? We'll put some of those in. Now, when you're using this, don't make a straight, don't sort of use a, I don't know how to illustrate what I mean. Try and use, where are we? Yeah, try and use a little corner there, a little edge, and try to sort of twist it a little bit so that you get that kind of shape. Don't do that because it doesn't look realistic, because most twigs are in fact quite straight. Made a mess of that. And then I'm going to put a couple in there as well, and then one there, and then perhaps one just dissecting that. So then I stand back and see what I've got, and basically that's starting to come right. I'll put in some of those very pale greens. When we're talking about the sky always being the lightest part of your painting, well, it patently isn't in this photograph because it's a little bit darker than this, but that's because the sun's shining on it. So I'm going to make it light. I think that's about it. I'm not putting in any of this stuff here because all I'm doing is illustrating. Where is it here? I can correct all sorts of bits. For instance, I've not got that little bit very well described, so I can change it now with that. And that's quite a flat colour, which I don't want, even though this is just a demonstration. I don't particularly want it to be a flat colour. I'm putting in a few little bits of that green so that now it looks as if there's bits of grass sticking up. Oh, and see, that goes up there and this comes down here. So obviously behind the tree it goes up very suddenly. You know, sort of on the photograph it does that, whereas on my painting it goes whoops down here. But you know, let's not bother about that. Mere detail. So now I want to finesse it a little bit. And to do that I need, oh no, first of all I'll just talk about this because that's a really flat colour, which is not going to be right, because you can see there it's not completely flat. There's all sorts of little marks, and the clue to doing that right is to find another colour that's the same value. And so if you hold it against the green like that and squint, it should look roughly the same. Now if you choose another colour like that, squint, slightly darker, don't want that one. And if we choose this colour, Squint, much lighter. We don't need that one either. We want this one because it's roughly the same colour. And we're just going to put some marks in. Just 1 or 2 little marks. Just so that it doesn't look such a flat green. Just really, odd shape marks. Nothing where you can see I'm not doing anything that's kind of, what's the word? I'm not doing anything really descriptive. I'm just putting on the pastel very loosely. Okay, so now let's think about finessing it a bit, by which I mean describing these bits. So I'm going to put some tiny little bits of a quite bright pastel. Now this hasn't been used anywhere else. It hasn't been used there, and it hasn't been used there. And I'm just putting in little dots. Just a few at first. And I'm using it on the bright bits of green. Now I might use it too much, in which case I'll just dab at them and dab them out, as it were. Nearly. I'm going to soften them because they're just a little bit too much for me. So I'm just touching them to soften them. I think that's a bit better. I also think that some of my sky holes are just a little bit too big and statementy. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go like that and hope that that's softened it. It has. I'm going to do the same with this one, like that. That's softened it a wee bit. Now I want to put a few more sky holes in. Where are we? Yes, there it is. Just going to put them there. And then stand back and see what I've got. I think that's about it. I think that's all I'm going to do for now. I don't know how long I've been droning on at you. And this isn't by any means an accomplished, finished painting. What I'm trying to show you is how I've selected 4 or 5 greens from very dark through to very light. So my dark's still there. In fact, some of those bits are still the underpainting that I've done with this. I've hardly gone on top of them with my blue at all, but in places I've gone over them with my blue just to give depth, just to push that in. I'm going to put a little bit of trunk in here as well. And I've chosen a different colour for the trunk now. Up there. And that, I'm going to think about that, and that is sort of curving round there. So I'll put it up there. And I think I'll just carry this on. And as I say, I know that you're really interested in painting trunks, but these are so much in the distance that that we can't really see any detail. This is smudged a little bit here, so I'm just going to push that in so that it's not quite so definite. Now on my monitor, this patch here looks really black, and they're not really black. Let me see if I can I'm going to disentangle the camera and try bringing it. Ooh, that's rather strange, isn't it? Bring it a little bit closer. No, that doesn't really make any difference, does it? That still looks, this bit here I'm thinking about still looks very black. And it's not, it's actually three shades. There is a black, just there is black, but then round here are two different colours of green. So sorry about that. Anyway, that's it now. I'm going to switch off, and I hope that this is of some use to you. It would be quite nice for me if you try and do it, paint it, and then send a photograph of it to me. I'm going to take a screenshot of my source material, which is that, so that you've got it for yourself. Okay? Right. Take care, and I'll get all this done and send it to you. Okay? Bye.